Dr. Lisa Carter pressed her face against the cold metal of the viewing window. Her breath made small clouds on the glass as she watched the alien ship grow larger in the darkness of space. The ship looked nothing like the sleek human vessels, she knew. This one was dark and covered in sharp edges that reminded her of teeth. "They're here," she whispered to herself. Captain Jake Morrison stood beside her, his hands clasped behind his back. His face showed no fear, but Lisa could see the tight lines around his eyes. They had been waiting for this moment for 3 months since the first radio signals came from deep space. "Remember what we practiced," Jake said quietly. "Keep your movements slow. No sudden actions, we don't know what might scare them." Lisa nodded. She had spent weeks learning everything they could guess about these aliens. The signals they sent showed they were smart. They had technology that could cross the vast emptiness between stars. But beyond that, everything was a mystery. The research ship Horizon shook slightly as the alien vessel attached itself to their docking port. Through the walls, Lisa could hear the hiss of air as the two ships connected. Her heart beat faster in her chest. "Dr. Carter, they're ready for you in the main meeting room," came a voice over the ship's communication system. Lisa walked through the narrow hallways of the Horizon. Crew members stopped their work to watch her pass. Some nodded at her with respect. Others looked worried. Everyone knew this meeting could change everything for the human race. The meeting room had been cleared of everything except a large, round table and several chairs. Captain Morrison was already there with 2 security officers. The men wore their uniforms but had no weapons showing. They had agreed that visible weapons might send the wrong message. "Are you ready for this?" Jake asked Lisa. She took a deep breath. "As ready as anyone can be for meeting aliens." The door on the far side of the room opened with a soft sound. Lisa felt her mouth fall open at what she saw. The creature that entered the room was huge. It stood at least 8 feet tall on 2 powerful legs. Its body was covered in dark scales that looked harder than armor. Its arms were long and ended in hands that had claws instead of fingers. The claws looked sharp enough to cut through metal, but it was the creature's head that made Lisa's blood run cold. The skull was long and narrow like a wolf, but bigger. Its teeth were white and pointed. When it opened its mouth to make sounds, Lisa could see rows of sharp fangs. Behind the first creature came 2 more just like it. They moved with the smooth grace of natural hunters. Every step seemed ready to turn into a deadly attack. Captain Morrison stood up slowly. "Welcome aboard the Horizon," he said in a calm voice. "I am Captain Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Lisa Carter, our head scientist." The largest alien made a series of clicking and growling sounds. A small device on the table began to translate the sounds into human words, though the voice was rough and hard to understand. "I am Apex Hunter Thrakmor of the Vorthak people," the creature said. "We come from the world called Keshan." Lisa noticed that Thrakmor kept looking at the 2 security officers standing near the wall. The alien's yellow eyes would move to them and then back to the humans at the table. Each time he looked at the guards, his claws would extend slightly from his fingers. "We are honored to meet you," Lisa said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We have traveled far to find others like us among the stars." Thrakmor made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded more like a growl. "Others like you? We are nothing like you, Softskin. You are small and weak. Your claws are dull, your teeth cannot tear flesh." The translation device made his words sound even more threatening. Lisa saw Captain Morrison's jaw tighten. The security officers moved their hands closer to their hidden weapons. "We may look different," Lisa said carefully, "but we are both thinking beings. We both build ships and travel between worlds. Perhaps we have more in common than you think." Thrakmor's eyes narrowed. He looked at the security officers again, and this time his lips pulled back to show all of his teeth. The other 2 aliens stepped closer to their leader, their own claws now fully extended. "You speak of being the same," Thrakmor said, his voice getting louder. "But you bring warriors to this meeting. You show weapons even as you speak of peace." Captain Morrison raised his hands slowly. "These men carry no weapons. They are here only to ensure safety for all of us." "Lies!" Thrakmor roared. He stood up so fast that his chair fell backward. All species bring death dealers when they meet us. All species see us as monsters to be destroyed. The two other aliens spread out on either side of their leader. Their claws gleamed under the room's lights. Lisa could see the powerful muscles under their scaled skin. If they attacked, the humans would have no chance. Please, Lisa said, standing up slowly. We don't want to fight. We came here to learn about you and your people. Thrackmore turned his yellow eyes on her. For a moment, she thought he might leap across the table and end her life with those terrible laws. But then something strange happened. The alien's expression changed. His anger seemed to fade, replaced by something that looked almost like sadness. He reached into a fold in his scaled skin and pulled out a small device. When he pressed it, a hologram appeared in the air above the table. Lisa gasped. The hologram showed several small creatures that looked like tiny versions of the Vorthak, but these little ones were different. Their scales were soft and fuzzy instead of hard. Their claws were small and dull. Their eyes were large and gentle. The soft claws, Thrackmore said quietly. His voice had changed completely. Now it sounded tired and full of pain. Our young ones. Our future. Lisa stared at the hologram. The little creatures in the image were playing together, tumbling over each other like puppies. They looked nothing like the fierce adults she was facing. They are beautiful, she said, and she meant it. Thrackmore looked at her with surprise. You do not fear them? Why would I fear children? Lisa asked. The big alien was quiet for a long moment. Then he pressed the device again. The hologram changed. Now it showed the same young creatures, but they looked sick. They were lying still, their fuzzy scales dull and gray. The dimming, Thrackmore said. A sickness that takes our young ones. We have traveled far seeking help. But every species we meet either runs in fear or tries to destroy us. They see only death dealers, not parents who love their children. Lisa felt her heart break as she looked at the sick youngsters in the hologram. These were not monsters. These were parents desperate to save their babies. How many of your children are sick? She asked gently. All of them, Thrackmore replied. Every soft claw in our world grows weak and fades. Soon there will be no more Vorthak. The room fell silent. Lisa looked at Captain Morrison, then back at the alien leader. She thought about her own nephew back on Earth, a little boy with bright eyes who loved to hear stories about space travel. What if we could help? She asked. Thrackmore's eyes grew wide. You would risk your lives for creatures you do not know? Lisa stood up and walked slowly around the table. The other two aliens tensed, ready to protect their leader. But Thrackmore held up one clawed hand to stop them. May I see more images of your children? Lisa asked. With shaking hands, Thrackmore pressed his device again. The hologram filled with images of young Vorthak. Some were playing, some were learning, some were being held gently by their huge parents. They look just like children everywhere, Lisa said softly. Different on the outside, but the same where it matters. She looked up at Thrackmore. If there's a chance we can help save them, we have to try. That's what any parent would do. For the first time since entering the room, the great alien smiled. It was still a frightening sight with all those teeth, but Lisa could see the hope shining in his yellow eyes. You would come to our world? He asked. Even knowing the dangers? Lisa nodded. Children are dying. Nothing else matters. Captain, Morrison stepped forward. Dr. Carter, you can't be serious. We know nothing about their world or their people. I know their parents trying to save their children, Lisa replied. That's enough. Thrackmore looked at the small human woman standing before him. In all his travels across the galaxy, no other species had ever offered to help the Vorthak. Most fled in terror. Others attacked. But this soft-skinned creature was willing to risk everything for youngsters she had never met. Perhaps, he said slowly, we are more alike than I thought. The transport ship carrying Lisa and her team dropped out of hyperspace near a blue-green world that looked almost like Earth from a distance. But as they got closer, Lisa could see the differences. Strange purple clouds swirled in the atmosphere. and 3 small moons hung in the sky like silver coins. "That's Kashan," said Thrakmor, who had traveled with them from the meeting point, home of the Vorthak. Lisa sat beside him in the small passenger area, still amazed that she was here. 2 weeks ago, she had been studying alien radio signals on a human research ship. Now she was traveling to another world with creatures that most humans would see as monsters. Dr. Ben Cooper sat across from them, checking his medical equipment for the 100th time. Ben was young for a doctor, only 32, but he was one of the best child specialists in human space. When Lisa had asked for volunteers to come with her, Ben had been the first to raise his hand. "I've worked with sick kids my whole career," he had said. "Doesn't matter what species they are. If they're suffering, I want to help." The third member of their team was Maya Rodriguez, an engineer who specialized in life support systems. Maya was quiet most of the time, but Lisa had seen her work miracles with broken equipment. If anyone could figure out how to help the Vorthak children, it would be Maya. As their ship entered Kashan's atmosphere, Lisa pressed her face to the viewing window. She expected to see cities full of dark towers and weapons, like something from a war movie. Instead, she saw something completely different. The Vorthak cities were built in gentle curves that followed the shape of the land. The buildings were low and wide, with soft colors that blended into the landscape. Gardens filled every open space, and Lisa could see water flowing in streams between the structures. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Thrakmor made a sound that she had learned was Vorthak laughter. "You expected something else?" "I thought it would look more like a military base," Lisa admitted. "Why would we build places of war when we have young ones to raise?" Thrakmor asked. "Everything we create is made to keep the soft claws safe and happy." Their ship landed in a clearing surrounded by the curved buildings. As soon as the doors opened, Lisa heard something unexpected. Children's laughter. It sounded different from human children, more like musical chirping, but it was unmistakably the sound of young ones at play. The first Vorthak to meet them was not a warrior like Thrakmor, but a female whose scales were lighter in color. She was just as tall and strong as the males, but she moved with a gentleness that reminded Lisa of her sister when she was caring for her newborn baby. "I am Nestkeeper Veltar," the female said through the translation device. "I care for the soft claws in this sector. Thank you for coming to help our young ones." Lisa noticed that Veltar kept looking past them toward their ship, as if expecting more people to come out. "You are only 3? Veltar asked. "No warriors? No weapons?" "We're not here to fight," Lisa explained. "We're here to learn about the sickness affecting your children and try to find a way to help them." Veltar exchanged looks with Thrakmor. Lisa could tell they were communicating in some way that didn't require words. Finally, Veltar nodded. "Come then," she said, "but move slowly and speak softly. The soft claws frighten easily when they are sick." They followed Veltar along paths made of smooth stones. Lisa saw adult Vorthak working in the gardens, but they all stopped to watch the strange visitors pass by. Some of the adults looked suspicious, but most seemed simply curious. The building they entered was unlike anything Lisa had ever seen. The walls were made of a material that seemed to glow with soft light. The floors were covered with something that felt like thick grass under her feet. And everywhere there were sleeping areas that looked like giant nests made of soft fabric. "This is where our youngest soft claws rest," Veltar explained quietly. "They need much sleep when they are growing." Lisa heard a small sound and turned to see her first Vorthak child. The little creature was about the size of a human 5-year-old, but it looked nothing like its parents. Instead of hard scales, its body was covered in soft, fuzzy fur that changed colors as it moved. Its claws were tiny and dull, clearly meant for playing rather than fighting. Most surprising of all, its eyes were huge and gentle, like a baby deer. "Oh my," Lisa breathed. "It's adorable." The soft claw heard her voice and turned to look at her. For a moment, the little one seemed curious about this strange new creature, but then it made a small, sad sound and curled up in its nest, closing its eyes. "That is Piptar," Veltar said sadly. 3 days ago he was running and playing with the others. Now he can barely lift his head. Ben knelt down beside the nest and pulled out a small scanner from his medical kit. "May I examine him?" he asked. Veltar nodded, but Lisa could see the worry in her eyes. Ben moved very slowly and spoke in a gentle voice as he ran the scanner over the sleeping child. "His vital signs are weak," Ben said quietly, "but I don't see any signs of infection or disease. It's like his body is just shutting down." They moved through the nursery, and Lisa's heart broke a little more with each soft claw they saw. Some were still able to play weakly with soft toys. Others could only lie in their nests, breathing slowly. The worst cases barely seemed aware of the world around them. "How long has this been happening?" Maya asked, taking readings with her own equipment. "The first cases appeared 6 months ago," Thrackmore replied. "At first we thought it was just normal sickness, but then more and more soft claws began to fade. Now it affects every young one on our world." Maya frowned at her readings. "This is strange. The air quality is fine. The water is clean. The food sources test normal. But there's something else." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. Maya pointed her scanner at the walls. "There's radiation here, but it's not the dangerous kind. It's more like sunlight, but it's much stronger than what you'd normally find indoors." Ben looked up from examining another soft claw. "That could be important. Some species need specific types of radiation to stay healthy. Maybe the Vorthak young need less of it than the adults." Veltar was listening carefully to their conversation. "You think the light is making them sick?" "It's possible," Maya said. "Let me check something." She led them outside and pointed her scanner at the sky. The readings made her eyes go wide. "The star that lights your world," she said slowly. "It's changing. The radiation it gives off is getting stronger." Thrackmore's claws extended involuntarily. "Our sun is sick too?" "Not sick," Maya explained. "Aging. Stars change as they get older. This one is putting out more energy than it used to. The adult Vorthak can handle the increase because your scales protect you, but the soft claws don't have that protection yet." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. "You're saying the sun itself is killing the children?" "That would explain why it's affecting all of them at the same time," Ben said. "And why it started gradually but keeps getting worse." Veltar made a sound of despair. "How do you fight a star? Our warriors cannot hunt the sky. Our weapons cannot wound the light." Lisa put her hand gently on the big alien's arm. Veltar looked down at her in surprise. Physical contact between species was almost unheard of, but Lisa's touch was meant to comfort. "You don't fight it," Lisa said. "You protect against it. Humans have technology that can create barriers against harmful radiation. We call them atmospheric processors. They can make safe spaces for your children." "You would do this for us?" Thrackmore asked. "Even though we are strangers to you?" "You're not strangers," Lisa replied, looking back toward the nursery building. "Your parents trying to save your children. Any parent would understand." Ben was already making notes on his tablet. "We'll need to get back to human space and bring proper equipment. This is a big job, but it can be done." Maya nodded. "We'll need atmospheric processors, shield generators, and construction equipment. It'll take months to set up." "But the soft claws don't have months," Veltar said quietly. "Many of them will fade before help can arrive." Lisa looked at her teammates, then back at the Vorthak adults. She made a decision that would change everything. "Then some of us need to stay here," she said, "to help care for the children while the others go get help." Ben and Maya stared at her. "Lisa, that's incredibly dangerous," Ben said. "We don't know enough about this world or these people." "I know they love their children," Lisa replied, "and I know those children need help now, not months from now." She turned to Veltar and Thrackmore. "Would you trust me to stay here and help care for the soft claws while Ben and Maya go back for equipment?" The two Vorthak looked at each other in amazement. No alien species had ever volunteered to remain on their world. Most couldn't wait to leave. "You would live among us?" Veltar asked. "Care for young ones that are not your own species?" "Children are children," Lisa said simply, If I can help them feel better or sleep more peacefully while we wait for the real solution, then that's what I'll do. Thrackmore walked over to Lisa and knelt down so his eyes were level with hers. Up close, his face was even more frightening, but Lisa could see the gratitude shining in his yellow eyes. In all our travels across the stars, he said slowly, no one has ever offered to stay with our young ones. You would be the first outsider ever trusted with soft claws. Then I'm honored, Lisa replied. As the sun set over Keishan, painting the sky in shad, Lisa woke up to the sound of soft chirping. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then she remembered. She was sleeping in a guest nest in the Vorthak nursery, surrounded by alien children who were slowly dying from their own sun. It had been 2 weeks since Ben and Maya left for human space. 2 weeks of learning to live among creatures that could tear her apart with their claws, but who treated her with more gentleness than she had ever experienced. She sat up and looked around the large room. Several soft claws were awake, making quiet sounds to each other. When they saw her move, they stopped talking and watched her with their big, curious eyes. Good morning, little ones, Lisa said softly. The young Vorthak tilted their heads at the strange sounds she made. They had learned that her mouth noises meant friendship, even if they didn't understand the words. Lisa got up slowly and walked to the food preparation area. Veltar had taught her how to make the special soup that 6 soft claws could eat when they felt too weak for solid food. The recipe was simple, but it required gentle stirring and the right temperature. As she worked, Lisa felt tiny claws tugging at her clothing. She looked down to see Piptar, the little one she had met on her first day. He was still weak, but he seemed a bit stronger than before. Hello, sweetie, Lisa said, kneeling down to his level. Are you hungry this morning? Piptar made a series of small chirping sounds. Lisa had been learning that different chirps meant different things. This one seemed to mean yes, or please. She gave him a small bowl of the warm soup and watched as he drank it slowly. When he finished, he looked up at her and made a sound she had never heard before. It was like a quiet humming, almost like a cat purring. What's that sound mean? Lisa asked Veltar, who had just entered the room. The big Vorthak female tilted her head in surprise. He is singing the contentment song. Soft claws only make that sound when they feel completely safe and happy. Lisa felt tears come to her eyes. In 2 weeks, this was the first time she had heard any of the children make a truly happy sound. He trusts you, Veltar continued. This is very unusual. Soft claws are normally afraid of anything that is not Vorthak. More young ones began to gather around Lisa as she prepared food for the rest of them. They moved slowly because of their sickness, but Lisa could see they wanted to be near her. Some of them reached out with their small, dull claws to touch her arms or hands. They like you, observed Thrackmore, who had come to check on the nursery as he did every morning. I have never seen soft claws act this way with an outsider. Lisa smiled as she handed out more bowls of soup. Maybe it's because I'm smaller than you adults, less scary looking. But Thrackmore shook his head. Size is not the reason. We have small adult Vorthak, and the soft claws do not behave with them as they do with you. As the days passed, Lisa began to understand what Thrackmore meant. The young Vorthak seemed to see her as something special. When they had nightmares, they would crawl over to her sleeping nest and curl up beside her. When they felt too sick to eat, they would still take food if she offered it to them. Most surprising of all, when Lisa sang human lullabies to help them sleep, the soft claws would quiet down faster than they did for traditional Vorthak songs. Your voice calms them, Veltar told her one evening. Even the adults feel peaceful when you sing. Lisa had noticed this too. When she hummed while working, the entire nursery seemed more relaxed. Adult Vorthak would stop their work just to listen to her songs. Meanwhile, far away in human space, Captain Daniel Hayes was reading the most unusual report of his military career. Dr. Ben Cooper and engineer Maya Rodriguez sat across from his desk, waiting for his response. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Captain Hayes said slowly. You want me to authorize the largest humanitarian mission in human history to help a species of 8-foot-tall predators save their children? That's right, sir, Ben replied. The atmospheric processors we need are expensive, and we'll need a lot of them, plus transport ships, construction equipment, and supplies. And Dr. Carter is still on their planet, living with these creatures? Maya nodded. She volunteered to stay and help care for the sick children while we came back for help. Captain Hayes leaned back in his chair. He had heard stranger things in his 30 years of military service, but not many. The Defense Council is going. To think I've lost my mind. Sir, Ben said, if you could see those children, you'd understand. They're just babies who are dying through no fault of their own, and their parents are willing to do anything to save them, including trusting a human with their most precious possessions, Maya added. Captain Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Then he pressed a button on his desk. Get me a meeting with the Defense Council and contact Dr. Emma Stone at the Child Psychology Institute. I want her opinion on this situation. Dr. Emma Stone arrived at the military base 3 days later. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes who had spent her life studying how children of all species bonded with their caregivers. Ben and Maya showed her the video recordings they had made on Keishan. Emma watched quietly as the footage showed Lisa caring for the soft claws, singing to them, feeding them, and comforting them when they cried. Remarkable, Emma said after viewing hours of footage. Look at this behavior pattern. She pointed to a section of video where a soft claw was having trouble sleeping. In the recording, the young one kept making distressed sounds until Lisa came over and gently stroked its fuzzy fur. The child immediately calmed down and went to sleep. That's exactly the same comfort-seeking behavior we see in human children, Emma explained. The young one is treating Dr. Carter as a trusted caregiver, someone who will keep them safe. But she's not even the same species, Captain Hayes pointed out. Emma smiled. That doesn't matter to a child who is scared and sick. What matters is that someone cares about them and makes them feel safe. These Vorthak children have recognized that Dr. Carter is a protective adult, regardless of what she looks like. She showed them another part of the video where several soft claws were playing a simple game while Lisa watched over them. See how they keep looking at her while they play? Emma asked. They're checking to make sure their caregiver is still there. It's called secure base behavior. The children feel safe to explore and play because they know their protector is nearby. Captain Hayes watched the video more carefully. You're saying these alien children see Dr. Carter as a parent figure? Not exactly a parent, Emma corrected. More like a trusted adult who will keep them safe. In child development, we call this a secure attachment. It can form between children and any adult who consistently meets their needs with kindness and reliability. Maya leaned forward. Does this mean the mission could work? That humans and Vorthak could actually cooperate? Emma nodded enthusiastically. If anything, this footage suggests that our species are more compatible than we might have expected. Both humans and Vorthak clearly have strong protective instincts toward young ones. That's a powerful foundation for building trust. She paused the video on an image of Lisa holding a bowl of soup while 3 soft claws waited patiently for their food. There's something else interesting here, Emma continued. Dr. Carter isn't just caring for these children out of duty. Look at her face. Look at how gently she moves. She genuinely cares about them. And they can sense that. Captain Hayes studied the image. Lisa's face did show real affection as she looked at the young aliens. You think that makes a difference? Children of all species can tell when an adult truly cares about them versus when someone is just going through the motions, Emma replied. These soft claws trust Dr. Carter because they can sense that she really wants to help them feel better. Back on Keshen, Lisa was discovering the truth of Dr. Stone's words. The bond between her and the soft claws had grown stronger every day. She had learned to understand their different chirps and movements. She knew which ones liked to be held when they felt sick and which ones preferred to curl up in their nests alone. The adult Vorthak had also begun to treat her differently. At first, they had watched her with suspicion, ready to step in if she did anything that might harm their young. Now, they treated her almost like family. Veltar had begun including her in the daily planning meetings where the adult caregivers discussed each child's health and needs. Thrakmor brought her special foods from other parts of their world, things he thought she might enjoy. Most surprising of all, other adult Vorthak had started coming to the nursery just to listen to her sing. Lisa would often look up from her work to find several of the fierce predators sitting quietly nearby, their eyes closed as they listened to human lullabies. "Your songs remind us of better times," Thrackmore told her one evening. "Before the dimming began, when all our young ones were healthy and strong." "What were those times like?" Lisa asked. Thrackmore's eyes grew distant with memory. "The nurseries were full of laughter. Young ones would run and play from dawn until dark. They would ask endless questions about everything they saw. They would compete to see who could climb the highest or run the fastest." He looked at the quiet room where most of the soft claws were now sleeping peacefully in their nests. "Now they can barely lift their heads," he said sadly. "But when you sing to them, for a few minutes they seem almost like they ow. The meeting room on Earth Station Alpha had never seen anything like it. Representatives from 12 different species sat around the large circular table, all arguing at once. Their voices created a confusing mix of clicks, whistles, growls, and electronic beeps that the translation computers struggled to keep up with. Admiral Scott Turner stood at the head of the table, waiting for the noise to die down. He was a big man with gray hair and tired eyes who had spent his whole career trying to keep peace between the different species in the galaxy. "Order, please," he said firmly. "We're here to discuss the human request to help the Vorthak species." The Zenthari representative, a tall blue-skinned being with 4 arms, spoke first. "The mathematical analysis is clear. The resources required for this mission exceed any possible benefit to the galactic community. Zenthari were known for making decisions based only on logic and numbers. They saw everything as a problem to be solved with mathematics. The humans proposed to spend enormous amounts of energy and materials to save the offspring of a species that has contributed nothing to galactic civilization," the Zenthari continued. "This is not logical." The Corvin delegate slammed his armored fist on the table. Corvin looked like walking tanks covered in metal plates, and they loved war more than anything else. "Logic has nothing to do with it," the Corvin growled. "These Vorthak are predators. They are dangerous. Why would anyone want to help them become stronger?" Admiral Turner looked around the table at the other representatives. Most of them seemed to agree with the Zenthari, or the Corvin. The idea of helping the Vorthak made no sense to them. "Perhaps we should hear from someone who has actually met the Vorthak," Turner suggested. He pressed a button on the table and a hologram appeared showing Dr. Ben Cooper. Ben was back on Earth after his trip to Keyshawn, but he had been working day and night to organize the rescue mission. His face looked tired, but determined. "Thank you, Admiral," Ben said through the hologram. "I know this request seems unusual, but I've seen the Vorthak children with my own eyes. They're dying through no fault of their own, and their parents are desperate to save them." The Zenthari representative made a dismissive sound. "Emotional appeals are not relevant to policy decisions." "Maybe not to you," Ben replied. "But I'm a doctor. When I see sick children, I help them. It doesn't matter what species they are." A new voice spoke up from across the table. It was the Delphani representative, a being that looked like a large dolphin with arms and legs. The Delphani lived in the ocean worlds and were known for being peaceful and thoughtful. "Wait," the Delphani said slowly. "I remember something about humans and children." The room grew quiet as the aquatic being searched through the files on her tablet. "Yes, here it is," she continued. 40 years ago, asteroid impacts threatened our breeding colonies on Delphani Prime. Human ships arrived before anyone else and helped evacuate our tadpoles to safety. They risked their lives for our young ones, just as they're offering to do for the Vorthak." Admiral Turner looked surprised. "I remember that mission. It was considered a routine humanitarian response." "Routine for humans, perhaps," the Delphani replied. "But no other species has ever prioritized our children over their own safety." Another voice joined the conversation. The speaker was the insectoid hive queen Zerthala, whose people lived in giant underground colonies. She rarely spoke at galactic meetings, but when she did, everyone listened. "The swimming people speak truth," Zerthala said in her buzzing voice. "Humans show strange behavior toward young of all species. During trade negotiations on Hive World 7, Human diplomats refused profitable agreements when they learned our larvae were being used as workers. They said children should play, not work. The Xanthari representative looked confused. That makes no economic sense. No, agreed Zerthala. But it makes parent sense. Humans protect young ones even when it costs them money or advantage. More. Representatives began sharing similar stories. The rocky granite people told of human engineers who designed safer playground equipment for their crystal children. The plant-like Verdani recalled human botanists who developed new fertilizers specifically to help their seedlings grow stronger. Admiral Turner listened to story after story, realizing for the first time how often humans had helped other species, children without even thinking about it. It seems, he said slowly, that humans have a pattern of behavior we weren't even aware of. The Corvin delegate remained skeptical. Stories about helping children are all very nice, but the Vorthak are different. They are apex predators. They could become a threat to all of us. Could they? Asked a small voice from the corner of the room. Everyone turned to look at Dr. Emma Stone, who had been quietly taking notes during the entire meeting. The child psychologist looked very small among all the alien representatives, but her voice was confident. I've studied the recordings from Kayshan, she continued. The Vorthak aren't building weapons or armies. Their entire civilization is designed around protecting and raising their young. That's not the behavior of a species that wants to conquer the galaxy. She stood up and activated her own hologram projector. Images filled the air showing Vorthak cities with their curved buildings and gardens. Look at their architecture, Emma said. Everything is built low to the ground so children can't fall from high places. The buildings have soft edges so young ones won't get hurt if they bump into them. The gardens are planted with foods that growing children need. She switched to videos of adult Vorthak interacting with their young. Watch how the adults behave. They're always alert for danger but not to attack others. They're watching for anything that might threaten their children. These are not the actions of a warlike species. The Xanthari representative studied the images carefully. The data suggests a species evolved specifically for child rearing rather than conquest. Exactly, Emma agreed. The Vorthak look dangerous because they evolved to fight anything that might hurt their young. But they only fight to protect, never to attack. The room was quiet as the representatives considered this new information. Finally, the Delphani spoke again. If this is true, then helping the Vorthak makes sense for all of us. A species dedicated to protecting children would be valuable allies, not enemies. Admiral Turner looked around the table. Are we ready to vote on the human proposal? Before anyone could answer, new alarms began sounding throughout the station. Red warning lights flashed and an urgent voice came over the communication system. All representatives to emergency positions. We have incoming ships of unknown configuration. Turner activated the main viewing screen and everyone gasped at what they saw. Hundreds of Vorthak ships were dropping out of hyperspace near the station. The vessels were dark and covered in weapon ports looking like something from a nightmare. So much for peaceful child protectors, the Corvin delegate said grimly. But then something unexpected happened. The lead Vorthak ship sent a message that appeared on the main screen. The words were translated into all the different languages spoken by the representatives. Greetings, galactic peoples. I am Apex Hunter Thrakmor of the Vorthak. We come seeking permission to speak about our young ones who are dying. We have heard that humans wish to help our children, and we want to thank them. Turner stared at the message in amazement. They came here to say thank you? Another message appeared. We bring gifts of rare metals and energy crystals from our world. These are payment for any help you give our soft claws. We also bring our strongest hunters to serve as protectors for any who help our young. No harm will come to those who show kindness to Vorthak children. The Delphani representative let out a sound that might have been laughter. They're not here to threaten us, they're here to offer protection to anyone who helps their children. Emma Stone smiled as she watched more messages appear on the screen. They're doing exactly what any desperate parent would do. They're offering everything they have in exchange for help saving their babies. Admiral Turner looked around the room at the alien representatives. The mood had completely changed. Instead of fear or suspicion, he saw understanding and even admiration on their faces. It seems, he said slowly, that we may have found something all our species have in common after all. The Zentari representative was running calculations on his tablet. If the Vorthak are willing to provide rare materials and protection services in exchange for helping their young, this becomes a highly beneficial arrangement for all parties. Even the Corvan delegate seemed impressed. A species that offers their warriors as protectors for those who help their children shows great honor. Turner activated the communication system. Apex Hunter Thrackmore, this is Admiral Turner of the Galactic Council. We welcome your ships and accept your offer to discuss helping your children. As Vorthak shuttles began docking with the station, representatives from across the galaxy prepared to meet the fierce predators who cared more about their children than their own lives. Dr. Emma Stone watched through the viewing window. As adult, Vorthak walked carefully through the station corridors, their claws retracted and their movements slow and non-threatening. Look at them, she said to Admiral Turner. They're in a station full of potential enemies, but they're not acting aggressive. They're acting like parents asking for help. Turner nodded. 6 months later, Lisa stood in the middle of what had once been an empty field on Kayshawn. Now it held the largest construction project in galactic history. Hundreds of workers from dozens of different species moved around her, building the atmospheric processors that would protect the Vorthak children from their dying sun. The biodomes were almost finished. Each one was a perfect sphere of transparent metal that would house a nursery for the soft claws. Inside the domes, the air would be filtered and the radiation reduced to safe levels. The children would be able to play and grow without fear of the dimming. "Lisa," called a familiar voice. She turned to see Ben Cooper walking toward her, his face bright with excitement. He had returned to Kayshawn 3 months ago with the first wave of human volunteers. "The tests are complete," Ben said, barely able to contain his joy. "The first biodome is ready. We can start moving the sickest children today." Lisa felt tears of happiness in her eyes. She had spent 6 months watching the soft claws grow weaker while they waited for this moment. Now finally they had hope. "Have you told Veltar?" Lisa asked. "She's already preparing the first group for transfer," Ben replied. 20 of the weakest soft claws will be moved this afternoon." Lisa looked around at the busy construction site. Human engineers worked alongside Zenthari mathematicians to calculate the perfect air mixture for each dome. Delphani water specialists designed pools where young Vorthak could play safely. Even the warlike Corvan had sent construction teams to help build the strongest possible walls. But the most amazing sight was the children themselves. Human kids had come with their parents who were working on the project. At first, the human children had been scared of the young Vorthak. But children adapt quickly, and soon they were playing together despite not speaking the same language. "Lisa, come see this," called Maya Rodriguez from near the first completed dome. Lisa walked over to find Maya standing with Dr. Emma Stone, who had arrived on Kayshawn 2 weeks ago to study the interaction between human and Vorthak children. "Watch what happens when they play together," Emma said, pointing to a group of children near the dome's entrance. A human girl about 7 years old was teaching a young Softclaw how to play a clapping game. The Vorthak child's claws made the game difficult, but the human girl patiently showed him how to tap gently instead of clapping hard. "They've created their own version of the game," Emma explained. "One that works for both species. And look at this." She pointed to another group where a Softclaw was showing human children how to make the musical chirping sounds that young Vorthak used to communicate. The human kids couldn't make the exact sounds, but they were trying. And the Softclaw was encouraging them with gentle touches. "They're teaching each other," Lisa realized. "More than that," Emma said. "They're creating a new kind of friendship. These children will grow up knowing that family isn't about what you look like, but about who cares for you." As the afternoon arrived, Lisa joined the procession that would move the first soft claws into the biodome. Veltar carried the weakest, young ones, while other adult Vorthak guided the children who could still walk. The moment they entered the protected atmosphere, the change was immediate. Soft claws who had barely been able to lift their heads suddenly sat up and looked around with bright eyes. Their fuzzy fur, which had become dull and gray, began to show hints of its natural colors. Piptar, the first soft claw Lisa had met, took his first steps in weeks. He walked slowly around the dome, touching the walls and making happy chirping sounds. When he saw Lisa, he ran to her on unsteady legs and hugged her with his small arms. "He remembers you," Veltar said, her voice full of emotion. Even when he was too sick to play, he would ask for the human song giver. Lisa knelt down and hugged Piptar back. "I remember you too, little one. You're going to get strong again now." Over the following weeks, more biodomes were completed and more soft claws were moved to safety. The change in the young Vorthak was like watching flowers bloom after a long winter. They began to play again, to laugh, to run and explore their new safe spaces. But the real miracle was still to come. Lisa was working in the main dome one morning when she heard voices speaking in perfect standard Galactic. She looked up to see a group of older soft claws talking with human teenagers. Both groups were using the common language that all space-traveling species learned. "How did they learn so fast?" Lisa asked Thrakmor, who was watching the children with pride. "Young minds are quick," he replied, "and they want to talk to their new friends. Some of the human young are learning Vorthak speech as well." It was true. Lisa could see human children practicing the clicking and chirping sounds of the Vorthak language, while young soft claws helped them with pronunciation. But then something happened that no one had expected. A human boy about 10 years old named Tommy was playing with a soft claw named Clickren when an accident occurred. Tommy tripped and fell, hitting his head on one of the dome's support beams. He lay on the ground, not moving. Clickren immediately began making the loud distress calls that young Vorthak used when they needed help from adults. But instead of calling only for Vorthak adults, he called for help in both languages. Within seconds, both human and Vorthak adults came running. Dr. Ben Cooper arrived first and began checking Tommy's injuries, while Veltar knelt beside Clickren to make sure he wasn't hurt. "He'll be fine," Ben announced after examining Tommy. "Just a bump on the head. But he needs to rest." What happened next amazed everyone watching. Clickren refused to leave Tommy's side. The young Vorthak sat beside the human boy's bed, making soft comfort sounds until Tommy woke up. "The soft claw has adopted the human child as pack family," Thrakmor explained to the humans. "Clickren now sees Tommy as his responsibility to protect." Dr. Emma Stone documented everything carefully. "This is unprecedented," she told Lisa. "Cross-species bonding at this level has never been recorded before." But it wasn't an isolated incident. Over the following days, more examples appeared. Human children would comfort soft claws who had nightmares. Young Vorthak would share their food with human kids who forgot their lunch. The bonds forming between the children were real and deep. Then came the news that would change everything. Admiral Turner arrived on Keshan with an urgent message. The Corvan Empire, known for their aggressive expansion across the galaxy, had launched an attack on a human colony world called New Earth. "They're testing our defenses," Turner explained to the assembled leaders. "The Corvan want to see how humans fight when we're far from home." Thrakmor's reaction was immediate and fierce. "They attack human young ones?" "There are families on New Earth," Turner confirmed. "Children live there." The change in the Vorthak leader was frightening to see. His claws extended fully, and his eyes blazed with rage. "No one harms the nestmates of the soft claws," he growled. Within hours, something happened that shocked the galaxy. Vorthak hunter ships appeared at New Earth alongside human defense fleets. The fearsome predators who had spent centuries avoiding contact with other species now fought beside humans to protect a human colony. The battle was over quickly. Corvan forces, expecting to face only human ships, found themselves fighting both human technology and Vorthak fury. The combination was devastating, but the real message came after the fighting ended. Young voices filled the communication channels, human children and soft claws speaking together, their words broadcast across the galaxy. "We are family now," said a human girl named Sarah, standing beside her soft claw friend Chirptal. "Family protects family. Nestmates help nestmates," added Chirptal and carefully pronounced standard Galactic. "All young ones are our young ones." More children joined the broadcast. Human kids and soft claws, speaking in a mixture of languages but with one clear message. They were no longer separate species, but one people united by love and protection. The broadcast was seen on every world in the galaxy. Species that had never worked together before began to reconsider their relationships. If humans and Vorthak, predator and protector, could become family, perhaps other unlikely alliances were possible. Within a month, the nursery accords were signed on Kishan. Representatives from 47 different species agreed to the galaxy's first universal law. The young of all species would be considered sacred and under the protection of everyone. The treaty established safe zones around all nursery worlds, created universal standards for childcare, and formed the Galactic Child Protection Force, staffed by volunteers from every member species. Lisa stood in the ceremony hall watching species that had been enemies for centuries signing agreements to protect each other's children. At her side stood Pip-Tar, now healthy and strong, wearing a small translator device so he could speak with beings from across the galaxy. "Do you understand what you've done?" asked Veltar, who now carried the title of First Nestkeeper of the Alliance. Lisa looked around the room at humans and Vorthak, Zenthari and Delphani, all working together. "We helped some sick children get better?" Veltar's laugh was warm and full of affection. "You did much more than that, Lisa Carter. You showed the galaxy that love is stronger than fear, that protection is more powerful than conquest." Through the hall's windows, Lisa could see the biodomes of Keshan sparkling in the sunlight. Inside those Protec